Welcome to the Silicon Slopes Conversations. We're here with John Kimball, who is the president of Real Salt Lake. Thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me back. I thought maybe last time you might not have me back, so I appreciate it.
Last time was amazing. And
there was nobody here, so that was kind of weird. It was during COVID.
It's way better now.
Yeah.
We had an awesome chat, and a lot's changed, and that's what we're going to talk about. We also will open it up to questions from the audience in the end, so get those ready. Let's just jump right in to when you were here last. It was a tumultuous time, right? There was an ownership change, and then COVID, and so talk about a bunch of spinning chainsaws, right? And then suitors, and the gossip mill was running at a high level. Now we've got new ownership, which we'll talk a lot about. The stadium's full and sold out. Describe kind of that journey for you over the last year and a half.
I was just telling my friend it was a bit of a blur. A little bit of my history, I was the first employee of Real Salt Lake, so I worked with Dave Checketts from the very beginning. I was working for a company called Sports West with him that carried the TV broadcast for the Mountain West Conference and the WAC. And then Dave decided to bring Real Salt Lake to Utah. So I had an amazing opportunity to be a part of that, to bring the club to Utah. There was a lot that we went through to make that happen. And so I had a bit of a history, obviously, with the club, worked for the club for about 10 years. Long story short, I worked for a media group that Deloy Hansen owned also, called Broadway Media. And then the Jazz recruited me, and I worked for the Jazz for about 5 years. And then Deloy, during this kind of time of turmoil, as well as the league, decided that I would be a good candidate to be loaned from the Jazz during the transition of ownership and the sale of the team. And so I was put on a kind of a loan, which is unusual. I was kind of scratching my head a little bit too, but great opportunity, and the Miller family was awesome to work with. And during COVID, we didn't have anything happening at the Vivint Smart Home Arena, so it made sense. And that's when I came back, was in 2020. We were coming back to our first game. It was September 2nd. I got the phone call, I think, 2 days before, and they said, Deloitte called me back and said, you start tomorrow, and it's our opening game, getting back from COVID. And so there was all those things that we were working with, how many people we could bring in the building, and working with the Utah Health Department. And I would say successfully, we did a great job of bringing fans back and doing it in a safe manner that allowed us to play in front of fans. And then we just kind of grew from there. But yeah, it's been an interesting run, and I really have thought, how has this all worked? How did this come together? And it was really, the effort of a group of people that had a common purpose in something, and they wanted to see this team be successful. And what I think I did was just bring that group together and work together, and we just tried to make small changes to bring things back on track so that we could be where we're at today, which is a full building and a team that's winning.
Yeah. And you guys are on a hot streak, right? You've got 6 sellouts?
We've got 6 sellouts in a row, which is the first time in club history, starting from the first game. So we're real proud of that. The record is 7 games in a row within the season. So arguably the game on the 18th is sold out already now. So we're really excited to match that, and we're really excited to break that record. And then on top of that, we're setting new revenue goals, which we're real proud of. I remember, I always refer, I don't want to offend anybody named Doug, but I always use the guy on social media as Doug, and Doug had made the comment of, hey, it's really easy to sell out games when you give away free tickets. Well, that's not what's happening. We're actually, we're having the highest revenue games in the history of the club. And again, it's credit to our ticket team and all the hard work that they're doing. And really credit to our fan base and for them, sticking with us and wanting to support the team and get back.
Yeah. Real quick, straw poll, just raise your hand if soccer is in your top 3 favorite sports. very cool. All right, so good audience for soccer stuff. So take the interim off, and you're now the president. And the end of all of this culminates with a really good ownership group coming in, right? Talk about that.
We absolutely hit the lottery with the ownership group. To have Ryan Smith, who is, to me, a local legend and done phenomenal things here in the state of Utah and nationally and even globally with his company. And then to have David Blitzer, who owns the New Jersey Devils, owns ownership in the 76ers, and then also owns 7 or 6 other football clubs in Europe. It really is just, in my opinion, it's the most solid ownership group in the league. And for us to have Ryan's local support and local vision and being here to help guide us and mentor us and give us direction, and then to have David Blitzer's group, we're only 6 months into this, and there's just already amazing synergies that are happening on the team side and then also on the business side, and I think it's really going to set us up to be very successful in the future.
Yeah, and the gossip mill that we referred to, like, there was a lot of suitors, right? And I assume you kind of had to be Switzerland, as you had to promote the team and probably pitch the team and Groundhog Day over and over again. But I think a lot of folks here locally were like, well, hopefully Ryan does it. But then with Blitzer, it's just like a cherry on the top because of what you just said. He obviously enjoys owning sports teams, and he's probably very competitive and has done well in his life. I'm sure he's going to start to leverage best practices across the board. How has that worked?
Right out the gate, on the team side in particular, Scott Crace is who I report to, and he works for David Blitzer specifically. They put together a coaching seminar where all the coaches across all the clubs got together and really started to synergize and look for ways to look for players. And one of the things that we hope to do down in the future is to bring some of these clubs to the state of Utah, because whether you know it or not, and hopefully you get the chance to go visit our facility in Herriman, we have the finest athletic training facility in America, in North America. And it's being recognized now globally. There's teams that are coming from around the world. Next week, we have Chivas playing Santos Laguna on the 15th from La Liga. And Chivas is coming in a week early to train at our facility. The high altitude makes a big difference. And then just the facility that Deloy Hansen built out there is really unmatched in our league. And quite honestly, talking to David Blitzer, when he walked out on what we call the wall out there at the facility, I saw his eyes just light up, because he, I think, saw the vision of bringing clubs here and having that opportunity to train. The next step is really the business side, and those things are coming. I'm going to a meeting in July with a group of presidents that are across the clubs. And I'm just so excited to learn from, these are really amazing business people that have been successful, and I really hope, to your point, to learn best practices.
Yeah, because I can imagine, let's say, like Crystal Palace 3 years ago was having issues selling out, right? Your sales team could call them and say, what did you guys do to fix that? Here's some free advice, right? And you couldn't call, like, Seattle or any team in Colorado. They'd be like, no.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Huge advantage there.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about some of the things that you guys do as well. In particular, you've got the academy, which you talked about. Again, amazing facility. Indoor soccer, great weight room. It's also a high school. The actual stadium, and then like 5 beautifully manicured soccer fields. And then, the foundation, just some of these ancillary things that are associated with Real Salt Lake.
Yeah, our strategy going forward, somebody asked me a couple of days ago, what do you think about Messi coming to the MLS and playing in America? And I said, man, that's fantastic. If we can get those players to come in our league, what's great for us is we sell those games out. It's not a model that we will ever follow, at least as far as I understand, because to bring in those premier type players is extremely expensive. But the model that we believe in is this academy and investing in kids and bringing them in at a very young age, making sure they're educated. It's really important to our ownership group to make sure that these kids get a great education so that they can prepare themselves to go to college. And then there's a handful of them that will be able to sign to professional contracts. You see Aaron Herrera, you see Justin Glad, you see these players that have been developed here through our academy. And our model is to build these players just like they do in Europe. David Beckham, even Messi himself went through these similar type of academies where they grew up. And our plan, with Deloy's help and his vision in building that infrastructure, is to now take that and build these players. And we're already seeing great success with the players that are on our first team right now. And that's the model that we'll be playing. So, we won't be bringing Messi here anytime soon or any players of that caliber. Great for the league, great for America to get our attention focused on the game of soccer. But it's not a model. Our model is really to kind of build from within and to bring these young players up and develop them as men as well as amazing soccer players.
Yeah, two ways of doing it, and I agree your guys' way is probably going to reap long-term fruit. Do it all in-house and organically. But if Messi wanted to play for the league minimum and play for RSL, you'd probably say yes.
Yeah, probably. And to that point, there was just an article that said that Real Salt Lake has spent the least amount of money in the league, but the performance of at that point where we're currently tied for third. I mean, there's something to be said about that model. Then we signed up Savarino just recently, which was a pretty significant investment to bring him back to Real Salt Lake. But I really appreciate the way our ownership is working because they're doing it right. We're not spending money just to spend money. We're spending money to help improve the team.
Yeah. And I'd imagine, you mentioned it's already starting to happen, but 5-10 years from now, the farm system, I don't know if that's what you guys refer to it, but you'll be able to see results yearly, right?
Absolutely. And I do think it's the future of our league. I think you will see teams that will start to build out similar farm development programs. But luckily, we had the infrastructure built, and that was one of the things that I think turned David Blitzer's head. And then again, for him to partner with Ryan and to create that synergy, it really has set us up to be successful, I think.
Yeah. I think you've got a job that a lot of folks would want, right? President of a Major League Soccer team. What is the role of a president of a Major League Soccer team? Just a kind of glimpse, day in the life of what you do and how you work.
Yeah, I had somebody mention that to me yesterday. They're just like, wow, that's like the most amazing dream job. And he's a close friend, and I said, it's work. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of things that go into it. But it absolutely is a dream job, and I am very excited, blessed, whatever you want to call it, to be in this role. My career has been in media and in sports, and had the opportunity to work with BYU, to work with University of Utah, to work with the Bees, to run the tour of Utah, to work with Utah Jazz, and to work with Real Salt Lake now twice, and it's been amazing. The day in the life, I get to do cool stuff like this. I get to promote the team. I get to work with amazing people and departments in trying to, really what I feel is one of my strengths is to get out of people's way and enable them to do their jobs. And we have a really solid group of people that are running our sponsorship and our marketing and our ticketing departments, our operations, our academy, our team side, our finance departments. These are all people that, as I mentioned earlier, have come together with a common purpose to really want to succeed and have a lot of pride in what we've built and had going with Real Salt Lake, and then have been able to reinvigorate. And people ask me what it is that we've done, and it's 50 different things. We re-engaged with the Hispanic community. We got involved with our fan clubs and really paid attention and listened to what it was that they wanted to see. We've gotten heavily involved with our media partners, working with groups like yours. We have amazing partnerships with America First Credit Union and these great partners that have stuck with us. That was one of the things that I did the first week when I came back, is I went to meet with all of our major sponsors and literally just ask them to believe, which is our mantra, and give us a chance to kind of earn back what we may have lost and the respect that we needed to show them. And with COVID and all those questions, we wanted to make sure we were a great partner and worked with them financially to make sure that we were fair in what we were delivering. And I'm proud to say that those partners stuck with us, and now they're looking to look at other opportunities. So that's again, if I could say thank you to all of them and their support. That was one of the things that I get to do that I really enjoy doing.
Yeah. When you go to a professional sports game, in this case RSL, you're there to have fun, right? As a fan, but you could, even if you don't like business or business models, you would see, oh, there's a lot that goes into this, right? You just want to have fun, but like there's the sponsor here, there's the zone here, and all of that is a business model, right? What are some things about the RSL business model that correlate with other businesses, and then some are unique?
It's to your point, it's a business, and we're for profit, but the key is we're here to entertain. And the beautiful game they call soccer is one of those things that, again, it's really important that we feel that all are welcome. And a big part of that is, I met with a business just recently, and they said, what you're doing and the vibe that you're creating and the way that you can connect with all these different parts of the community is what we want to be sitting next to. We want to partner with you because we want to be seen that way as well. A lot of people might say, well, yeah, there's a lot of money that's spent in sports. There's a lot of solid ROI that comes with that. And there's a number of different reasons. For example, I was involved in the naming rights with Rio Tinto, and at that time it was called Kennecott, and nobody knew who Rio Tinto was. And when we sat down, they said, our goal is to make sure that Rio Tinto is a household name by the time we're done with this naming rights. It's a multi-billion-dollar mining company that's globally owned, run out of Australia and Europe, but they wanted people to know the name of Rio Tinto. That was their objective, and very proudly a year ago they said, we've accomplished that goal. You guys have done exactly what you said you would do. Rio Tinto is a household name, and we're very proud of our sponsorship, and they moved on. So we're currently in the process of acquiring a new naming rights partner. Their goal might be something totally different. There's a lot of startup companies that for one reason or another, they want to put a flag in the ground. They want to say, we're proud to be here in Utah. We want the world to know that we're located here. That may be, how they invest in us and work with us, maybe not on a naming rights, but just with signage and TV and different things along those lines. There's other groups that want to entertain. They want to bring out their 250 employees or 2,000 employees, and we have scalable opportunities to be able to host that. We ironically are red and blue, and that was strategic by Dave Checketts. He wanted to be inviting of BYU and Utah, and like when Ryan says he'll never put the color red on, great, you can wear blue, and that was intentionally designed to make sure that we were welcoming to everybody, because there's so much passion behind sports that we knew that's something that we needed to do. But like I said, I talk to companies, they're involved in charitable groups. They're like, we're not interested in companies. That's not, or in getting additional business. That's not how we work with people, but we're heavily involved in charity. And I said, well, yeah, why don't we do something in front of 20,000 people? Let everybody know what you are doing as a public relations move to people, to know that you're giving back. And there's a lot, those type of things are really important to companies. So I'd say across the board, there's 15 different solutions on the business side that we can accomplish, whether it be entertaining or employee engagement or just flat out straight up marketing. But sports is something that people are passionate about, and when you support their team, there is statistics that say they will in turn support your company, and so that's a big part of it.
Yeah, as much as we like to claim that advertising and marketing doesn't work, if I buy chewing gum, it's going to be Wrigley, because I grew up watching the Cubs on WGN. I won't shop anywhere except Home Depot for that type of stuff because of Tony Stewart and the Home Depot car, and I have a lot of examples.
Yeah.
And it can all be traced back to sports, at least for me. What teams are out there that nail this and you guys try to emulate?
Oh man, there's a number of teams. You look at Golden State, you look at the Lakers, you look at a number of the NFL teams that are doing it well. The Yankees. You look at Barcelona, Real Madrid. There are teams across the world. And somebody said to me a couple of weeks ago, if you think back to your top 10 memories in your life, most of the time, half of those will be sports related somehow. And to your point, you may not even subconsciously know why you buy Wrigley's gum or why you shop at Home Depot. But I think if you look a little bit deeper, a lot of those habits are created by a memory that you might have had with your dad. I mean, I have dads that come up to me all the time. They're like, I am not a fan of soccer. It is not my game. But I go to your Real games with my 16-year-old daughter because it is the only time she will talk to me. And it is the highlight of my week to go to these games and to have my daughter sit next to me and to root together for a club, and they're wearing the jerseys and there's all that brand. But there really is that affinity, and there really is the reason that people will do things, because that memory is then associated to that experience, to that jersey that they're wearing. If you don't get the jersey with the logo on it, it's not authentic. That's true to soccer. And those are all the little triggers that make a big difference in business and also with the memories that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. It just kind of flows back to happy juices, right? Like, yeah. I'm happy and great memories with the daughter, all of that. What I'm kind of envious of with your guys' business model that I think is unique is you guys get to see a lot more frequently the results of your labor. And you can be a little bit more flexible. Let's try this with the fans, let's try that. But you get to see their happiness and joy dozens of times a year. How do ideas work? Because you have to listen to some ideas, right? If somebody says, I think this should be over here, or we should do this as far as fan activation, it's like, okay. But I bet a ton of good ideas come up from the bottom down. How do you guys organize all of that and decide which ones are going to go this year, maybe which ones are 5 years out? How do you guys organize it?
Yeah, that's a great point. To the point we get to see all those joys and happiness, we also get to see a lot of complaints and a lot of frustration. There's a lot of things we can control, a lot of things we can't control. But it really is getting feedback and making sure that you're listening. We got a kid, Brady, here, who works in our ticketing department, who does a lot of our analytics. And he's paying attention to a lot of the feedback that comes back from our fans. It's listening to our employees, And it's really, for me, it's surrounding ourselves with people that are passionate, common purpose, have goals, and are young and upcoming and have ideas. And I think, that process, and one of the things I really encourage is that, it's all the stuff that I learned, by having amazing mentors of quarterly meetings, weekly one-on-ones. I mean, listening. I think my job is to listen. You'd think I'm 55 years old now and I've had a great career and I would have all the answers. I don't have any of the answers because I had the answers for what was happening back then. The answers for the new generations and what's coming is going to be coming from the people that are working with us and the newer generations. So I think the key is to really have a way to gather that information, listen to our fan clubs, listen to the community, listen to the youth organizations and what they're doing, and have them involved and have show partnership, give back to people so that they want to be a part of what you're doing. And again, it's those 50 different things that we've kind of tweaked, listening to the Hispanic community and what's important to them. They love the beautiful game. And this game, I would challenge you guys just as an experience to come to the game on the 15th, because to watch the Hispanic community celebrate their game is unlike anything you'll ever see. It's a next level experience, and it's just an amazing opportunity. But that's our fastest growing population in Utah right now, and that's a population that we can learn a lot from. So it's all those little things. I think the key is really trying to listen to as many people as are willing to give you feedback.
Yeah. At the end of a game, let's say it's sold out and there was a great atmosphere, what do you and your team internalize as like, that was perfect, because of how many things go into like a perfect game in your opinion?
You know, it's funny, I complain or I explain that I don't get a chance to watch the game because I'm watching everything else, and I'm going to different suites, and I'm meeting with clients and paying attention. But it's the food per caps, it's the lines, it's the experience of the fans, it's parking, it's all those different things that, you know, when we have a great game, we have secret shoppers that come in about 5 or 6 times a year and just tell us, you know, from start to finish, how did your experience go? Parking's a tough one because there's just nothing you can do to solve that. You only have so many parking places, but we have a feedback session where we get together and kind of go through all of those different points. It's entry, you know, how quickly. I mean, Utah is traditionally known. You even joked earlier, Utah time, where everybody shows up 15, 20 minutes late. I figured out why. It's because we all think we can get somewhere in 15 minutes. And the problem is that's changing because you can't get anywhere in 15 minutes anymore. It now takes 30 to 40 minutes to get somewhere. So that's why we're always late. But our fans, we're trying to get them more involved and to have events that are happening prior to the game. Like with the NBA, they've done a great job with Steph Curry doing his shoot around, and people come to watch that. And so our goal is to create opportunities so that people want to show up early and get there. But it's really a hard analysis of that fan experience because, again, we're about entertainment. Our job is to make sure that it's as seamless as possible and that you're walking away from that experience with your daughter or your son or your family or your company and saying, wow, that was spectacular. Whether it's a win or a loss, it was just an amazing game. There was so much energy and so much passion. It was easy to get in, easy to get out. The food was good. You know, everybody was happy. I was treated with respect. You know, the ticket takers were awesome. You know, that's kind of what we're looking for.
Yeah. I could be wrong on this, but I think there are some possibly leagues, but for sure teams or stadiums that you have to be wealthy to buy the tickets and even go to a game. Like, I don't know what an NFL game is. I know they're very expensive. But with you guys, you've got to be cognizant of that, right? Because you're very inclusive to the entire community. You want kids. You want people from every socioeconomic class to be able to come and buy a ticket. On the business side of things, how do you guys make sure it's accessible and affordable, but still way awesome?
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and that's one of the main things that our ownership group is wanting to make sure happens. For example, we just partnered with UISA, which is Utah Youth Soccer Association, 60,000 kids that play soccer in Utah. And we partnered with them and gave every kid that plays soccer a ticket to come to the game. And we felt that that was, you know, important for a lot of reasons. So what happens is these kids come together as teams, and then we bring them out on the field, and they get to go through what we call the Parade of Kings. And that, for a kid, is like a memory that, you know, is some, I mean, to walk onto a professional field in any type of league is life-altering. And so, again, yeah, it's an opportunity for us to get them engaged and excited about it, but we want every kid to have that opportunity who plays soccer to be able to come to a game. This year we introduced something called Krylik's Corner. Our team captain, Damir Krylik, donated a significant amount of money to a section in the lower bowl so that the kids that were underprivileged could come to games. And part of our foundation looks for those kids in our community and reaching out. We had an autism night where we had sensory packets and all sorts of different cool things that the ownership group got behind and Damir got behind. And it's really been so rewarding for us to be able to participate and to give back to those that may not ever have the opportunity to come and to experience a game. But that is a priority to us. Education is priority. Youth sports and health is a priority to the ownership group, and that will be something as we go forward that is part of our club.
Yeah, because I can imagine if things keep going swimmingly, and by all indications they will, in 20 years you'll need more seats, you'll need to add a lot of new things to the stadium. And again, I could be completely wrong, but there's the old Oakland Raiders fan base who were rough around the edges, we'll say. I don't think they could go to a game in Las Vegas financially. So I'm sure that's something you guys are always cognizant of, and it sounds like you're dialed in on how to make sure everyone can go to a game or two a year.
Well, and it's, I think it's also an obligation for businesses, and what a great way to show your support to the community than to invest and to give that opportunity to kids. And partnerships and sponsorships are a way to do that, and that's a way to give back to the community and to sign up and say, we're going to donate 100 tickets a game, and we're going to focus on these programs or these kids or these people that are in these situations. I think though, we have a lot of partners that do a lot of cool things along those lines as well, but it's something that we look to grow and make sure that we're enabling that opportunity.
Yeah. One more kind of business question. What are the negotiations like for naming rights or logo on the jersey, or we're going to go with Adidas or Nike? What is the team across the table like? What are those negotiations like from 30,000 foot view?
So a lot of those major deals like Adidas and Nike, those are league-run deals. So currently the MLS is an Adidas property. We are hopeful to bring back a women's team to the state of Utah. We're working on that. That's a priority of our ownership group to see if we can make that happen. That league is currently run by Nike, and so those deals are kind of done at that table. But for naming rights, that is something that we're working to negotiate. And I'll tell you, a big part of it is just relationships and having a relationship with a group or having a history or having kind of a track record of how we do business, so that really right out the gate, that partner feels that you're sitting on the same side of the table. And again, I always focus on the key of listening. I always use the example of a car. If I go to a dealership and I know that I want a four-wheel drive and I want a truck and it's green and I want heated seats and air conditioning, and I give them that list and they pull up a Country Squire station wagon, that's purple, I'm like, well, did you not hear what I said? I mean, this is what I'm looking for. And so the key is, when we work with these partners, to really in detail listen to what it is that they want to accomplish, because we have so many tools and assets that we can deliver those things that it's really fun to custom build, as opposed to say, here's our gold package, our silver package, our bronze package, to custom build those things. And then to be able, one of the things we've gotten a lot of compliments on is to be able to adjust. When COVID hit, there were a lot of companies that said, look, we've got to adjust. We got to back off, or we can't do that, or that's not our priority anymore. And we brainstormed with them and said, well, what is it that you want to say, and how is it that you want to say, and what can we do? And so those were, again, going back to truly sitting down and listening and custom building things to make sure those partners are getting what they want, and they see the ROI, and that you're all on the same side of the table.
Yeah, very cool. All right, I've got a bunch more questions, but we better open it up to the audience for some Q&A. We've got a microphone, and Sam will bring it to you right up here in the front. Just raise your hand.
Hi there. I was wondering if you could go a little bit more into the maybe just high level of the quant when you think about naming rights, how people kind of calculate the number of impressions over 10 years or something. And just for some background, naming rights are also kind of talked about as a top signal a lot of times. 3Com Stadium in San Francisco, Enron had naming rights, right near the end. Lately with crypto, FTX in Miami, Crypto.com in LA. Obviously that's great for a team, right? If the payment's made and then it doesn't go through. But how do people market size or think about if someone's going to spend $10 million, $20 million over 10 years, how do they think about that other than just a splashy, huge amount of money?
That's a great question, and really what we feel obligated to do, and what we've done, is to hire a third-party company to show the numbers. Because I could go in and tell you whatever it is you want to hear and tell you a great story about how effective it is going to be, but there are third-party agencies and companies that will analyze, and they will say, during a year, here's the millions of impressions, and here's how they happen, and here's how effective they are. And so we hire a third-party company to kind of give us that data so that we can put that on the table and then try to match it with their goals. And a lot of companies, for various reasons, some companies want to put a flag in the ground to say, here we are, and we're new. Other companies want to say, we've been here a long time, and we're traditional, and we're stable, and naming rights really adds stability. When somebody puts their name on a building, a lot of people tend to believe that's a company that's going to be here a long time. But again, it's that custom design of sitting down with that company and trying to say, what is it that you want to accomplish? Now, really for us, it's important that it's the right company. To say, hey, we'd take anybody, that's not the case. And really with our ownership group, it's great to have a solid ownership group because we get to be picky and we want to make sure it's a right partnership because there's a lot of partners that come and go. We've seen that with some of the examples that you may know of companies that burn out real quick, and it was a money grab, and those partnerships were maybe not done properly. But with a lot of that homework and sitting down and saying, okay, here's third-party analysis. What are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? And yes, we agree that you're the type of partner that we want to have and that we want to go forward with because they tend to be 10 to 15-year contracts. There's really, it's important that it matches and that it works well because we've done a lot of work to get the club where it's at. We want to make sure that we're partnering with the right people. But there's a lot of due diligence that goes into that.
The world of analytics in sports has definitely increased over the last 15, 20 years. I'd be interested in your take on how you viewed analytics prior to the new ownership and if any of that's changed with the new ownership and the access to potentially more teams and more ways of running, how you look at the team and how you build the team in connection with what you talked about from the academy side.
So as far as players go?
Player development, team selection, that kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, no, there's as you mentioned, that's a huge part of the future of sports. You'd still see Billy Bean and that whole process. I think that may have woken a lot of people up to how effective that can be. But the reality is, yeah, across the board, that's what the Blitzer Group really brings to the table is the ability to have a lot of analytics and to have a lot of data points that maybe teams wouldn't share with each other. We can openly share and show those data points and show player development. And really the argument is if we have 7 teams that we can work with, that there's probably 7 good teams that we can put together with all of those opportunities, with all of those players in those different leagues. And it's really us paying attention to the data and the analytics to be able to do that because, there's obviously Crystal Palace is at a different level than, the team that they might own in Portugal compared to the MLS team that they currently own now. We're betting on what we can help develop through academies and all of that analytics is that we can put really solid teams across the board.
When you look at the ability to recruit or potentially take a player from your development program over to another Blitzer team or vice versa, is that something you all can do? Or how do you look at the ability to take someone who's in this level of development and bring them over to another club? I have a junior soccer player here next to me.
Is that your son?
Yeah, so I think it's just interesting to understand how do you all look across your global footprint of these teams?
Yeah, it's really, to be honest, that's an area that I'm learning a lot about. But what I see happening is really that development, that if we think, for example, there's a player on our first team that could benefit from going to play for Crystal Palace, we're going to look for those opportunities. We want the player to develop to their highest level. And there's a lot of reasons why. There's financial benefit to that because if we can sell a player then to Real Madrid that was built out of our academy, that then allows us to invest more into our academy. But what we want to do is identify the players, get them while they're young, as I mentioned, educate them and turn them into solid men, but then also make sure that we're maximizing their opportunity to grow as a soccer player. We want them to be able to, if it's even growing past Real Salt Lake, we want that opportunity to happen for them. And you'll see, for example, one of our players, Cordova, came from Augsburg and was playing for their team, and they bought an MLS player for a lot of money, and it replaced him in his position. So he was essentially going to sit on the bench. So the ownership group said, well, let's move Cordova over here to Real Salt Lake, because it wouldn't be fair to him to just sit him on the bench and help him develop. He's now developing to be one of the best players in the MLS, which again will then maybe give him an opportunity to go back into a different league in Europe or wherever we think might be best for him. So it's all part of now it's all part of this really solid network of trying to work between all these teams to make sure that we maximize those opportunities.
Cool. One or two more, and then I have one last question.
So it sounds like you found kind of your niche of how you fit into soccer. Is there any strategy, though, of trying to take your team to the next level, where it's, maybe Madrid, Spain is going to say, hey, we're going to send them over to Salt Lake eventually because their academy is next to its top level?
Yeah, it's a great point, and to the point I'd mentioned earlier, we're getting global recognition with really specifically the La Liga teams have identified us as a place to come and train. Now with our connection with Crystal Palace and the EPL, we're looking to bring clubs from the EPL to come here and train some of their youth development teams and even do tournaments and different opportunities. And we believe as soon as they get that exposure, they're going to see the facility here and they're going to say, wow, this is an amazing place to go in the United States. The world of soccer knows that America is the next place of substantial growth in the sport, because we just haven't completely capitalized on our opportunity here, and it's not, it hasn't reached its potential by any stretch. And I really firmly believe with World Cup coming in 26 in America, that that's going to be a trigger point for the United States, and you're going to see that excel the opportunity, the league of the MLS, and I think you're going to see the United States wake up and want to dominate the most played sport in the world. And it's just not something that's been a huge priority just yet, as we've seen, in the recent past. World Cup's in Dubai. Again, not a lot of people are going to go to Dubai. A lot of people watch it, but again, not a lot of participation. The World Cup before that was in Russia. Same problem. Not a lot of people are going to go to Russia to watch that. But when it comes to the United States, the world will come, and I think it's going to be a substantial opportunity for people to see what we can do here in the United States. And I think kids like this are going to wake up and say, this is the sport I want to play. As soon as our best athletes play the game, we will start to dominate the sport.
So you touched on something that's kind of near and dear to my heart, and that's playoff hockey. Seems traditionally the Utah Jazz has had a monopoly on professional sporting events in Salt Lake, so it's encouraging to see the Real expand here. Given your experience building that team out here, what do you think the future of professional sporting looks like for us in the next few decades?
Great question, and the opportunity that I've had to work for both organizations has been phenomenal. And kind of back to what I was just saying, I think it's really going to be triggered by the World Cup. But I also have heard a lot of discussions of other opportunities with the way Utah's growing. It would not surprise me to see potentially another professional league or sport come here. We have the Warriors that are here on the rugby side, and they're doing a great job. They're at our facility in Harriman. We're great partners with them. But as our community grows, it wouldn't surprise me to see another league come in and see that opportunity. It's been great for us to have three professional teams here, because it allows us to really capitalize on the demographic and the community. But as the community grows, I think it's an opportunity for all of us.
As much as I love a good baseball game, if you have any sway in that over the next couple of decades, a hockey team would be pretty cool too.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, John, for taking the time to join. I think you're fine sticking around for a few minutes if there's any questions y'all had but didn't ask. Congrats on everything you've done over the past 2 years, and looks like it's going to be a fun ride. So
Yeah.
thank you for joining.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.